Good morning. This is John from the Springs Mennonite Church, and I'm happy to be here with you today, the first day of a brand new week and the first week of a brand new month. And on top of that, I have a brand new topic. Now, how's that for continuity? I want to share with you some this week from the Gospel of John and the 14th chapter. Now, the 14th chapter, 15th and the 16th, are all things that Jesus said to the disciples after the Passover celebration or during the celebration, sometime when they're in the upper room before they go to the Garden of Gethsemane. Now, Jesus knows that tomorrow his earthly ministry is going to be over. The disciples don't know that. I suspect they sensed that something was up, especially after he says that one of them's going to betray him. That's in the 13th chapter. But they really don't know what it is. But there's something different about this Passover than the previous ones they've had with Jesus. And part of the conversation just before this is his, if you want to say, rebuke of Peter, letting him know he's going to deny he ever knows him 3 times. Peter, who loves the Lord, has been through all kinds of stuff with him, just can't believe that he would even talk about that. He would never, ever consider doing something like that. But in fact, we do know that it did happen. So that brings us to the 14th chapter. Now, I think it's interesting. The very first thing Jesus says in this series of saying things is verse 1. And let's read it. John 14, verse 1. Don't let your hearts be troubled. Trust in God. Trust also in me. If I'm sitting around that Passover meal table and sort of out of the blue, Jesus makes that statement, my mind's going to go to, well, what's going to happen? Turn to the next one. Did you hear what he said? What do you think's going on? Jesus is trying to convey to his disciples and ultimately to you and to me that whatever happens, we don't have to let our hearts be troubled. Now, what does it mean to be troubled? Upset, worried, concerned, overbearing so we can't accomplish anything? Lots of possibilities here. And I have no doubt that, like me in your past, you've had moments of being troubled. Some of you may be in the midst of them right now. And some of you, at least from your perspective, have had nothing but moments of trouble. And again, like me, I'm assuming you don't think those times are very appealing. I don't. But being a human being and living in this world, those times come. Now, Jesus is trying to point us to the fact that that's not all there is to it. We get so absorbed in the moment, we forget that there'll be a tomorrow and a tomorrow after that. So he says very succinctly, very straightforward, don't let your heart be troubled. The emphasis here is you don't do something. You, me, don't allow it to happen. Well, how are we going to stop that? I mean, golly, it seems like the very first thing people go to is the worst that could happen. How do we do that? Well, he tells us how. Very next part. Trust in God and trust also in me. Now, what does trust really ultimately mean? Well, it means to let go and let God be in charge. Did you hear that? Let me say it again. It means to let go and let God be in charge. So really, at times of troubles, you and I have two options, at least. Two of the most important options, I suppose. One, we let ourselves get troubled. And I can tell you, that's probably the easiest option. It takes less work than anything else. It's just a mere going along with whatever's happening. The second choice, which really is the better one, is to simply trust God and trust the Lord. Now, that trusting doesn't mean that all of a sudden your trouble's going to disappear. When Jesus said this, he knew that within, I don't know, 24 hours for sure, he's going to be hanging on a cross. And the disciples were going to be scared to death because they're going to assume they're next. And that wouldn't have been a surprise if it happened. So, in the midst of knowing how the day is going to work out, Jesus still says, let not your heart be troubled. Don't be afraid. Just trust God and trust Him. Now, I would suggest you'll have to figure it out on your own. I can't do it for you. But I would suggest that Jesus's option is a whole lot better than the one of letting your heart be troubled. I hope the next time something comes along, or if you're in the midst of something right now, you'll try that. This passage is going to give us more information as to how to do it, but I'll stop for now. If you have a need or a concern, let us know. We'll do whatever we can, as fast as we can, to help meet your need. Thank you so much for being here today and for being here this week. I hope it'll be a blessing to you. So until tomorrow, you be safe, take care of yourself, and I'll talk to you again.